All right, so we are going to begin. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Anderson, and I'm Associate Director of Tufts Alumni Career Services. Welcome to today's webinar, Five Steps to Take Your Career from Stuck to Unstoppable with Tracy Timm. We have three main goals in Tufts Alumni Career Services. Let me talk about that for 1 minute, and then we'll get into the webinar. In Tufts Alumni Career Services, we present programs like this, including webinars and in-person networking events, which, as you can imagine, are suspended at the moment. But our services, like these webinars, are for the alumni of all schools. And we've increased our offerings to help you during this time. Um, in fact, I've just added three more webinars for May and June, including one coming up on May 20th. So please check those out on our website. Our second goal in Tufts Alumni Career Services is to foster networking and connections between alumni and students, including a new online resource for alumni to alumni networking called The Herd. And look for the launch email on May 19th. We're really excited about this new platform. We have already launched it for alumni to student mentoring and networking, and in another couple of weeks, it's going to be for alumni to alumni. Our third goal is to provide individual career coaching for graduates of arts and sciences and engineering and the School of the Museum of Fine Arts. Now, for today's webinar, a few housekeeping items. We'll be presenting from 1 to 2 o'clock p.m. During the 1-hour presentation, you can type in your questions anytime in the Q&A box, and our presenter will address them at the end of the webinar. You can also use the Q&A box or the chat box if you have technical issues. I will be addressing those issues during the webinar. We'll be recording this webinar and to post it on our YouTube playlist on our website within the week. So let's get started, and we'll get our presenter up on the screen. I'm going to stop sharing my, let's see. I'm going to actually hand the presenter ball over to Tracy while I do her intro. So our presenter today, Tracy Timm, is the founder of the Nth Degree Career Academy, the proven career clarity system that helps high potential professionals discover, define, and drive careers they love. She has a degree in behavioral psychology from Yale University and studied design thinking with the founder of the D.school at Stanford University. Tracy left a successful but unsatisfying career in finance, traveled once around the world on semester at sea, and discovered her ideal career. For over 5 years, she has applied these lessons in her career advisory work with hundreds of individuals and over 100 fast growing companies. Tracy lives in Dallas, Texas. So, why don't you take it away, Tracy? And
Thank you so much, Nicole. I
okay.
really appreciate that introduction. For the interim or for the presentation, I am going to take myself off the screen. That way you can focus fully on the presentation. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to serve you and your alumni, and thank you for making time for yourself today. Because what we're going to be talking about is the 5 steps that it takes to really elevate and escalate your career from stuck to unstoppable, meaning how in this crazy time that we're in can we find sustainable success without sacrificing some of the really meaningful things like our health and our wellness and our well-being and, of course, our pocketbooks, right? So welcome to your masterclass. This is really going to be a tactical deep dive into what it takes to move on from when you're in a place where you're hating your job, tolerating your job, dreading Mondays, stuck in your day-to-day 9 to 5, but hey, everyone else thinks you got it made because you went to a university like Tufts. You maybe have a great paying job or a high status job or even just a job that hey, it pays to be thankful for right now because so many people don't have one. But of course, you're still struggling and still suffering. And so what we're going to talk about today is some very specific tactical things that you can do to really deeply impact your experience at work. So thanks again for having me. So of course, the first thing that you have to know is, hey, is this a good place for you to be? I know your time is precious, and I know that you want to spend it in a really powerful way, especially if you're going to take an hour out of the middle of your workday, even if you are at home, even if you're not wearing pants, even if you're in your pajamas, to know that this is a good use of your time. So here's how to know right off the bat if the next 45 minutes is going to be a really good use for you. So if you identify as a go-getter, but you're tired of sacrificing your mental and your physical health for someone else's definition of success, and this is definitely deeply going to serve you. If you've ever been called a high achiever, but at this moment in your life, you know that you're meant for more than what you're doing, either in work, in your life, but you're really just struggling to answer that basic, dreaded question, the what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do with my career? If you're a hard-working, decisive person, but right now you're struggling to find that perfect balance of something you love to do, something you're good at, something that you find meaningful and impactful that the world needs, and of course, something that you can get paid to do, because we are, after all, talking about your career. And if you're a professional that, I mean, listen, if you know you want to quit, if you would run out of the front door tomorrow, but you feel paralyzed for some reason, maybe you have bills to pay, maybe you just don't know how to snag your dream job, maybe you don't even know what your dream job is, then these are the people that we're deeply going to serve with this conversation today. But most of all, if you want to feel aligned and alive and aligned at work, then this is going to be the best time that you've invested in your career in a while. And I'm really excited to share this action plan with you. So specifically what we're going to go over today is a step-by-step plan to discover, define, and drive a career that you love. None of these steps involve a job board. None of them are going to make you move back in with your parents. None of them are going to lead to you being a starving artist. And this is true even if you have no idea what it is that you want to do moving forward. In fact, that is the person that I tend to specialize with and work with the best. So let's be clear before we get into the tactics specifically. This is not a quick fix scheme, and it's quite frankly not a quick fix problem, right? It requires commitment. At any time in our lives when we're deeply seeking clarity, when we're lacking confidence, when things feel uncertain, we want somebody to just wave the magic wand, right? We want them to give us a fish. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do. I just want an answer. And that's fair. That's totally fair. But what we're going to talk about today is actually how to go about getting the answer, not by yourself, but with the right strategies. And my hope is that if you really embrace these strategies, then teaching yourself how to go about this process of clarity, no matter what's going on in the world, is going to feed you, meaning serve you for a lifetime instead of giving you just one short-term answer today. So I really want to be clear about that. So before we get going, this is going to be a slightly interactive presentation, and I'm sure I can hear a collective groan on the other side of this webinar. But you're not going to have to do anything. You're not going to have to take any polls or do anything crazy, but I do want you to be present. And if this is really resonating with you, then I want you to say yes. So on the next page, what you're going to see are a series of questions. It's really checking in to see if this sounds like you. And if this does sound like you, I just want you to own your experience by typing yes into the chat box, because the more that people realize that they're not going through this alone, I think the more willing they are to reach out for help and for resources and to actually make progress in this area in their life. So if you feel stuck, I want you to type yes in the chat box. So if you feel like what you want to do something else, but because you have no idea what that is, you have to stay in the same dissatisfying job or the career that you have right now. Or do you feel exhausted? I hear this all the time, and I know this is true because I used to live this. You're basically living two jobs, two full-time jobs. One is the job you're paid to do, and the other is basically pretending to be engaged with that job, even though you're either over it, never were into it, or you hate it. Type yes into the chat box. Do you feel behind? Like you're constantly comparing yourself to your old classmates, to your close friends, and that you're worried at the end of the day, even if you do find something you love, you're already so far down the road in your career that you're going to have to start over from scratch. And that's going to put you even further behind than you feel right now. Or do you feel conflicted? This is one of my personal favorites, and I exist to really debunk this, but it's so easy to fall into the trap of feeling like you have to choose between income and impact. Like your life is either going to be a starving artist who loves their work and feels deep passion, or you have to be a miserable corporate success to make really good money. But there's no in between. There's no perfect fit, and you're always going to be making some type of significant sacrifice. So if any of those are you, I want you to be typing yes into the chat. And I am excited to see that there are some people who are engaging. Good for you. I'm super proud. And the more you do that, the more you're going to get out of this. Now, I was talking to a girl yesterday, and I realized I think the biggest thing people are struggling with is feeling hopeless. You get to this point in your career where you're just miserable and unable to get yourself out of it. And I think the deepest fear that we all have is that we're missing out on this life that we really want and deserve, and it's just sort of going to pass us by, that there's no hope for figuring this out. And if that's you, I completely understand. What I'm going to argue today and what I'm going to help you see is that these are symptoms. They are the worst symptoms that come from a lack of career clarity. Meaning the real problem underpinning all of these symptoms is that we just haven't identified your ideal career, your ideal profession. So there's always something lacking. There's always something that you're having to give. So these 5 powerful insights are going to finally help you look beyond what's not working professionally, meaning the boss you hate or the hours or whatever, and give you a clear path to discover, define, and drive the career of your dreams. And they're going to challenge your thinking all along the way, meaning at every turn, we're going to start to try to debunk or try to challenge some of these thoughts around things like income or impact, and replace them with the idea that you can actually have a personally meaningful career and make money at the same time. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing, and it's exactly what we teach. So you'll realize, too, that that out-of-control feeling that you have is largely an illusion, and you can actually become more successful and feel even more in control, not by doing the safe thing, but primarily by deviating from what society or people have told you your entire life is what success looks like. You'll understand how your career and your life actually can fit together, so that you don't have to sacrifice your mental and physical health. You don't constantly have to be worried about work-life balance. You can actually be the best version of yourself both at home and at work. And with these insights, you're going to be able to make big-time career decisions without losing sleep, which I know probably sounds too good to be true, but I promise by the end of this, you're going to be wanting to order one of those old-school Staples Easy buttons because decisions are going to be that much easier once you know what really matters to you. So most of all, you're going to see that doing work you love is actually the fastest and the easiest way both to live a meaningful and impactful life and to make great money at the same time. So I just want to say a little bit about me and my background so that you know where the credibility is coming from here, because quite frankly, I am not the type of career coach or career clarity expert that's 50 or 60 years old and had this insanely enviable career. I actually got into this line of work because I did everything wrong, and I couldn't find resources that helped me, and so I researched and built them myself. I used to actually hate my job, which is why I think I'm a great resource for clarity. And so over the past 5 years, as I've been working in this space, both as a career clarity expert and in workplaces on culture and human capital advisory, I've really had the great honor to be on some news outlets. I did a TEDx, which was crazy. And I think the reason this is resonating with people is because there aren't a lot of experts out there focused on ideal and focused on clarity, and discovering ideal through creating clarity, which leads to confidence, which leads to more certainty, which can only be a step up in our careers. So that's my specialty. I'm a career clarity catalyst, which, yes, I did make up. But the reason that I'm so passionate about this is because I realized a while back that my joy in my career was optimizing the fit and alignment and love and joy in other people's careers, meaning helping people find their unique reason for being. And I had an amazing client a couple of years ago who brought this model up to me. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a model that's called Ikigai. And Ikigai is actually a Japanese concept. It stands for reason for being. Iki and gai being two separate words in the Japanese language that mean worth and life. So living a life, living a career that's worthwhile. And the 4 major components of Ikigai are the 4 larger circles that you see there. They're what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can be paid for. And this is kind of like the holy grail of awesomeness of a career, right? If you can love it, be good at it, the world needs it, and you can get paid, then you've got the basic building blocks for an amazing reason for being, an incredible career. And as you can see, if you're missing any one of those things, for instance, if you're good at what you do, if you can be paid for it, and you know the world needs it, but you don't love it, you may feel comfortable, but there's this deep feeling of emptiness, the sense of a lack of meaning and purpose behind what you're doing. And I think all of us who've reached that point in our career know that it's frankly unsustainable to continue to live a life like that and hope for something to change. And so throughout this conversation, we're going to be bringing back this model to talk about where you might be in your career and what might be missing. And I do this work because I quit that horrible, successful looking job. I worked on Wall Street for a couple of years, made me super miserable. I spent the next 2 years really trying to find my own career clarity. And it turns out, as with a lot of entrepreneurs, once you solve your own problem, you realize, hey, I really want to do this for others. So I started working with high potential professionals like you guys. I built a proven program. I worked with a lot of companies, helping them attract, engage, and retain talent. And all through this process, I realized that this specific formula and framework for knowing what you want, why you want it, and how to get it is really not that hard. It's not that complicated. It's actually very linear, but you have to do the work. And so today we're going to talk about exactly what that work is. So insight number one of 5 that we're going to share with you today is, if not you, who? Now, this is going to be one of those, wow, duh, Tracy, you've got to be kidding me moments, but you have to start with ownership before you can move forward to any sort of tactics. So again, I know what you're thinking. I know you want somebody to swoop in and do that voodoo mind trick where they tell you the exact job that would be perfect for you right away, and then you ride off into the sunset and you live happily ever after. And trust me, I would love to be able to do that, and I'd be able to charge a lot more. But I know from experience that I have quite literally given people the proven steps. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you will have your ideal career, and it will be sustainable, and you can love and do it forever. But if that person doesn't believe, literally believe in their own agency, in their own control, in their own power, in their own ownership, if they don't believe that anything's ever going to work for them, if they believe somebody else is responsible for their success in some way, then none of the rest of this presentation really matters. None of it is going to move the needle. Because if you feel, for instance, like you're working really hard and you're doing, quote unquote, all the right things, like maybe you're on job boards, you've redone your LinkedIn and your resume for the umpteenth time, whatever, but you're still not seeing progress. You're living on hope that one day it's going to jump out of the screen at you. One day things will change. I'll just keep thinking about it. I'll just keep working on it. This is the real mechanism at play. There's likely something going on mentally that's keeping you from taking what we call right action, not just staying busy. And in all the work that I've done with people over the last 5.5 years, these people have become crazy successful, and even just studying the really successful people and their habits over time, right? They all have this insanely deep commitment to taking ownership and responsibility for themselves and their careers. They realize that they co-create their own reality constantly. And this is super important if you're wanting to move forward in your career. And I actually learned this from from a time where I took a total departure from career. I quit my Wall Street job. I enrolled in a semester at sea. If you're not familiar with that program, it's a super cool undergraduate study abroad program where you sail once around the world. Thankfully, I got to do that before travel became a thing of the past. But on that trip, I met this man, and you may recognize him. This is Jeff Hoffman. He's one of the co-founders of Priceline, and he has gone on to found multiple million-dollar companies. He's a very sought-after speaker. He has a best-selling album. He's a Renaissance man, and I really bonded with him. And this is him giving a fireside chat on the ship. And one of the quotes he said during that chat really, really changed the way that I think about my own agency in my career. And he said, I was always afraid of the alternative, right? He wasn't afraid of what was scary. He was afraid of not doing anything. I knew for sure if I did nothing different, I was literally going to rot in the cubicle that I was in. If I did nothing different, I could already draw out 20 years of my life looking exactly the same, and I simply couldn't live with that. I simply couldn't live with that. And that just sort of blew me away because my whole life I had been guarding against the unknown, guarding against uncertainty, doing the safe thing because I thought that that was maybe the better thing to do. And he said, leading a good life is your individual decision. You get to decide what's scary. You get to decide what's safe. You get to decide what risks you're going to take. And at the end of the day, what happens to you is up to you. So this is not a chicken soup for the soul idea. This is literally the fact that all of our professional progress is a direct result of our decisions and our resulting actions. And sometimes, you know what, we stay in that dead-end job, we stay in that debilitating job, we stay in that miserable job just because we're afraid. And maybe we're afraid of deviating from the norm, we're afraid of, other people's expectations, we're afraid of our own limiting beliefs, maybe we're afraid of failure. And sometimes it's spending hours on job boards so you feel like you're making progress. It makes you feel better in the moment. It alleviates your cognitive dissonance. But in reality, you haven't actually moved the needle at all. And you know it. And that's why after, spending an hour on LinkedIn, you may even feel more anxious than when you started. Because in your mind, deeply, you know that what you've just done is maybe a waste of time. And I think that's crucial to ask yourself now, maybe with some tough love, like if it's not you, who's going to do it? If you want a successful career that you love, you can't simply rely on the career conveyor belt, as I call it, to get you there. You can't simply just continue to hope for the promise of success instead of actually making progress towards your unique and highly suitable purpose or niche professionally. So this is the tough love time, ladies and gents. If you are struggling in your career, it's time to own that that's a direct reflection of your choices, either the choices you've made or the choices you've avoided making, which counts as taking action, which are holding you back from feeling really satisfied and fulfilled with your work. And chances are that's going to show up in a lot of other places, right? Not just in your career, but in the rest of your life. Maybe your personal relationships, your romantic relationships, your health, your wellness, how you feel about the weekends. If you are dreading Sundays because you don't want to go back to work on Monday, there's something going on here. And what I want you to do today, if nothing else, if you take one thing away from this, I want you to give yourself permission to take ownership and risk and action in your own career, because only you can choose your life. The reality of all this is daily we're given opportunities. And I know now maybe less so because you're stuck at home, but you're going to see opportunities coming at you all the time. They're messages that come to us, right? And how we receive them, how we take them in, how we process them, and then how we act upon them is completely based on your own mindset. It's based on whether or not you feel like you have permission and the agency to make change in your own life. And the reality is, if you subconsciously believe against yourself, maybe you're not meant to succeed, or that getting off the career conveyor belt is somehow a bad thing, it's not okay, it's not appropriate, it's a disappointment, you'll pick up the cues that lead you to confirm that bias. And guess what? If you don't change, nothing changes, right? If not you, who? So you have to, absolutely, you must start today with a success mindset, an actual system, a plan for dealing with fear, for dealing with doubt, for dealing with other people's doubts, and the inevitable freakouts that are going to come along the way to defining success for yourself. So this is Sam. Sam is a special person to me because she was actually my very first paying client ever. And she was a personal milestone, to be honest. And so today, Sam actually works in entertainment. Obviously, that's going to be a bit of a struggle, but she really loves her job. The problem that Sam was experiencing was that she had been in finance, coincidentally, for 10 years of her working life, and she hated it quite literally every second, and she felt like her potential was really significantly buried. And so we started working together because she really thought she was ready to make change, but she felt stuck. She kept feeling this resistance to actually taking action. And she wrote me this really beautiful email on the last week of us working together where she said, "Tracy, I made this huge breakthrough. I realized that I've been waiting for someone else to give me permission to prioritize my own life." Like, she was still doing all the things she thought were priorities, showing up, working out, being with her husband, doing all these other things, but not prioritizing herself, and certainly not prioritizing her own wellness and well-being and happiness. And And that was what was keeping her in a world where she never felt fulfilled. And so Sam taught me this really valuable lesson of a personal permission slip. I'm going to share it with you today. Please, if this is you, if this is resonating with you, if you came to the right webinar and you're like, oh my gosh, I am Sam, then I want you to be the first person to give yourself a permission slip. So again, type into the chat, I have permission to pursue my ideal career. I have my own permission to pursue my ideal career. I'll tell you this, and this is a super challenge. If you are feeling resistance to this, if you're like, Tracy, this is cheesy, I can't believe you're making me do this, I don't want to own that I'm not happy in this chat in front of all these other people, that is the exact mechanism. That is the exact mental mechanism that is keeping you stuck where you are right now. There's nothing else. And if you don't get past that, the rest of this doesn't matter. So if this is you, and if you want to own this, I give myself permission to pursue my ideal career. Yay! We got chatters. Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. This is a huge step. And really own it. Really feel yourself and believe that you have permission, because the next step is going to require you to make a leap that you may have not made yet. That's because insight number 2 is to play your best game professionally. So I love this. I did a lot of, looking around for images of Tufts and graduation. And of course, we've probably got some people on the call even who might be missing out on their graduation, their kids' graduations. Here's the thing with us overachievers with high potentials. We get stuck in our career not because of a lack of opportunities, not because we're not smart enough, but because we're working on someone else's definition of success. I don't know where it comes from. For all of us, it's different, but this is especially true of high potentials and overachievers. We get used to playing the game that we need to play to look and then, of course, feel successful. And it's super easy to look back even in high school and in college and go, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. And A is winning and F is losing. So you know the barometer, you know the bar, and you try to live up to the bar, meaning an A is enough, right? If you got an A, that validated your effort, and that was success. And then we graduate college, and there are no A's in life. There are a lot of F's. But we're trying to apply that same logic to our careers, and it's leaving a lot of us stuck for an alternate definition of success. And here's the thing, and this totally blew my mind. I couldn't believe that of all people, Einstein said this. But Einstein actually said, everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And that, quite frankly, made me laugh because I felt like for the first major part of my career, I was a fish trying to climb a tree, and I was pretending like I wasn't a fish, and everybody else knew it. That's the secret here, is that we think we're really good at pretending. We think we're really good at just aligning with other people's definition of success. And in reality, it's not only not serving us, it's not allowing us to be of service. And furthermore, the world's most successful people, the people who feel fulfilled, the people who have impact, those are the professionals who are like, nah, I don't need anybody else's definition of success. I'm going to find the genius zone where I can win and I can have the greatest opportunity to succeed instead of focusing on what everyone else is doing. Sometimes that's salary. Sometimes that's status. It's some type of shiny object. But they choose themselves first. They define their own genius zone first, and then they go out in the world and try to make an impact. So that's the goal here. And this is insight number 2, really, is the key here is that we have to identify our own unique niche in the career marketplace. And in the Q&A, I'm going to go a little deeper into exactly how to identify that niche, especially if that's where you're really struggling and you feel stuck. Because your ideal working situation, instead of trying to fit your amazing genius, you're a unique person and you're different from everybody else. So the idea that you could try to squeeze that uniqueness into this pre-existing set of job requirements is never going to feel right. It's never going to feel comfortable. It's never going to feel like it's your fullest potential. So identifying your niche is your strategy for avoiding the overwhelm of I could do anything and narrowing down to your ideal, your absolute clarity. And the reason I think we struggle with this is when we play somebody else's game, it leads to a lot of really crappy outcomes. We get worried that if we leave our job or industry that we're going to have to start over from scratch because now we're behind everybody else. We're comparing ourselves to everybody else. we're constantly overwhelmed. This is such a great dichotomy. We're so overwhelmed by the fact that the world is full of these insane amount of options. And yet, whenever we look at any individual option, it's super underwhelming because it's not tailored to you, right? It doesn't align with your uniqueness. So that leads to this disenchantment, right? You've done everything that you're supposed to do. You went to the right college, you got A's, you graduated, you got the right job, you have the picket fence, and you're miserable. You're unhappy at work, you don't see your situation getting any better. And to make matters worse, you've probably gone to everybody that you trust and respect, your parents, your friends, career coaches, counselors, you name it. And for some reason, nobody's advice is really working for your unique situation. And in fact, you probably have some people in your life giving you some really well-meaning advice that sucks. Like you're never going to find work you love. That happened to one of my clients yesterday. So this ultimately, I think, leads to conflict because you've been told, be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for the job that you have, especially in today's marketplace. But deep down, you know you're meant for more, and that leaves you feeling really worried and really conflicted at the end of the day. And what I'd really like to propose is that all of this is inevitable if we don't have clarity. It's completely avoidable with clarity about who you are, what you love, and what you're good at doing, which may be difficult to access by yourself, but there are ways to find it out. And once you have your unique niche, you know, somebody who's like, you'll never work a day in your life once you love your job, that person is lying to you, by the way. Doing work you love is hard work. And in fact, I find that people who love their work actually spend more time working. They work harder, they work faster, they work stronger, but it's because they're doing something they can't not do. They just inherently love to do it. In fact, most of them would do it even if they didn't get paid, but hey, because they're working so hard and they're really great at it, they actually get paid really, really well, which is a great happy day situation. So I'd like to bring to your attention two guys who I think really epitomize this idea of working within your best game, within your genius zone. Hopefully everybody recognizes Michael Phelps on the left and Usain Bolt on the right. These are both men. They're both Olympic athletes. They're both Olympic gold medalists. They're both even in the Summer Olympics. But here's the difference. Michael Phelps, his niche is the pool. You can see it in his body. You can see it in his training. It's in his value set. It's in his commitment, right? His niche, his best game is being in the pool. Usain Bolt is totally different. His niche, his best game is not only track and field, it's running, and it's a certain distance of running. It's a 100-meter dash, right? This is such a great example of two people finding their unique niche in the world and playing their own game. And I think all of us can really see that even though these are both hard workers, talented athletes, incredible at what they do, committed, right? They have a total commitment mindset. If we switched them, they wouldn't be near as successful. In fact, they'd probably look something like this, right? One of these things is not in its place, and it is very obvious. But here's the sucky part for us as professionals. It's that, you and I are not cows and dolphins. So our environments, our ideal environments, don't look as obvious as a pool or a track, right? Or a field or the ocean. You and I are wondering, is my ideal environment working from home or working in an office? And those don't look very different. And so the struggle here is identifying what that niche is for each person, but the benefits of it are incredible. Because once you know your niche, you get to stop pretending. You get to succeed in business and in life simply by being yourself, by doing work that comes naturally to you. How amazing would that feel, right? You're able to take advantage of all the jobs you've had before, even if you never wanted to do them again. Lovely. That was how I felt about finance. So that you won't have wasted any time and you won't have to start over from scratch. And you'll have a framework. This is so amazing. There's a book called Rich Habits. If you want to fact check me, go look this up. It's on Business Insider. Rich people who love what they do make 2 times the amount of personal wealth, and it takes them 1/3 the amount of time to accumulate 2 times the amount of personal wealth. It's insane. So when you know your niche and you're loving what you do, you can actually make more money, not less. And you'll feel confident and clear when sharing your career plans with others because you're finally able to, be like honest, authentic, on mission, share who you really are, and you don't have to hide and you don't have to pretend. So I want to introduce you to someone else. This is actually a personal friend named Patrick, who I played on a softball team with and became a client. And so Patrick now lives in Kansas City. He works as a product manager at Meshify. He's an engineer. And when we started working together, he was working in engineering, but he was working for a pump manufacturing company that had no creativity whatsoever, had no humor. He was working all by himself. And so we dove into Patrick's real niche. We figured out what he valued. We figured out what he was naturally good at from a behavioral perspective, from a personality perspective. And we figured out how he could deeply leverage all of his previous work experiences. So what we really discovered was he had all the puzzle pieces. He had just put them in the wrong puzzle frame. So we worked together to define his niche, and within 2 months, this is so cool, he advocated for every piece of his niche and landed a job that met every one of his requirements, and it included not a bonus, but a bump in salary. So he was literally getting paid more to do work that he loved more. And so to me, he's one of the best examples of somebody who can really take their previous experience and put it into a new environment that allows them to serve more, but is also serving them more in the process. So that's insight number 2, define your niche. Insight number 3 is going alone only gets you so far. So earlier I asked you, if not you, then who? Now I'm going to challenge you a little bit, because I know, because I've been there. Nobody likes to show off their like less than shiny selves, right? So the last thing that you want to do when you feel uncertain, when you feel unclear is like tell people about it, right? To talk to people about, I really don't know what I want to do, and I feel like a loser, and I feel lost, right? Nobody wants to do that. It's not intuitive. Excuse me. So I really want you to listen to this part, because this insight is going to require you to do a little mental work. It's going to require you to release some of the thinking that may have worked for you in the past, because, hey, you probably got where you are because you're smart, you're gritty, you're a hard worker, you've relied on yourself, and you've shown up for yourself. But if you want to get to ideal, if you want to find your niche, I'm not 100% sure that what you've done in the past is going to get you to the next level. It's not going to serve you to find your niche. If you're not already sharing whatever level of clarity or vision you have with somebody else, if you're not already enlisting the help of other people, it's likely for 2 reasons. The first is that you're under the impression that figuring all this out on your own is the gold standard. Meaning, if you don't do this by yourself, it won't be worth it, you won't be successful, it won't really count. I've had people actually say that to me, and I used to think that way as well. Or you might know that talking to other people would be super helpful. In fact, you have a great network to start with. You just have no idea if they would give you the time of day, and even less of an idea of what you would want to tell them, right? Because if you really want to leverage your network, you got to have some clarity to go into it with, right? But what we're going to talk about today is not that clarity. It's the idea that leaning into this, that eliciting help, is one of the number 1 ways that you can move your career forward. When you share your career journey with other people, right, when you're no longer afraid to be seen and to get help, you're no longer the only person thinking about your career, which sounds kind of nice, right? If somebody else, like 2 brains are better than 1. You are not too weak to figure this out on your own. In fact, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, of people who came before us. Nobody succeeds alone. You can look at any of the, even Steve Jobs had Wozniak. Nobody succeeds alone. Successful people create career advocates. They create champions. They create promoters. They have people who are going alongside them in their journey who support them. And by sharing their vision for the future, however cloudy, however clear, you exponentially amplify that message, and you increase your chances of getting where you want to go. And frankly, if getting your clarity and knowing your niche is really where you're struggling the most, this is one of the best ways to get more clear. It's to share what you don't know with other people and have them help you figure it out. Who knows you better, right, than the people who love you? People want to help you. People innately, human beings, innately and intrinsically want to help. We all have altruism built in because it's good for our survival. So when you enlist someone else's help, they actually become mentally and personally invested in your success, right? Nobody wants to be unhelpful. So when you reach out for help, they're going to do whatever they can to be of service. They'll go to bat for you. And the cool part is they'll do this even when you're not around. And at the end of the day, what you really benefit from is that it takes the pressure and the stress off of your shoulders, which allows you to show up with less stress, with more authenticity, and sharing your journey with others. The benefits don't stop there. You get energy, you get even more clarity in your search. You leverage the natural inclination of others to help you figure out your answers that you would struggle to find by yourself. You get where you want to go faster. Imagine, you guys, like maybe 30 days from now instead of 6 months from now, just by amplifying your vision with career advocates. So people always stop me here and they're like, "Ugh, but I hate networking events. I can't." You don't have to do this in a cheesy or a sleazy way, even if you feel like you have no network to begin with, because I know, and if you're being honest with yourself, there are people in your life who are already ready and suited to help you. The better way to do this, the better way to go about quote unquote networking, is to start with who you know and the people that they know. So leveraging your own personal and professional network, feels more natural. It's a lot more effective than trying to connect with brand new people and getting something out of that. And the ability to connect with others, that's the magic. That's really the spark that's going to move not only your clarity needle forward, but also your career search process forward. The other cool thing is people are going to share what they've learned with you, right? And you don't have to feel like you're doing this alone. And I think the benefits of that, honestly, can't be overstated. When you finally build up the courage to share, the confidence to share, that success, what you co-create with that person, is going to look infinitely better than anything that you could have discovered on your own. And one of my early clients, Megan, helped me realize this as well. She was incredible. This girl just dominated every bit of exercise that we gave her. She found her niche while working with me in just 5 weeks, which was super cool. Now we do it in 30 days. But she went from literally, like, "Tracy, I have no idea what I want to do," to 100% confidence in her vision. But where that ended was in sharing it with people. That was her biggest fear, was, "I know what I want, but I don't know if I can go out and ask people for help. That's a lot of vulnerability. What if they say no?" And I challenged her to just pick 5 people that she thought were a total, they were way out there. They're never going to give you the time of day. They're never going to respond. And that way, if they don't respond, you don't feel that bad, right? Sort of setting yourself up for failure, which is success. And so she emailed 5 people in her pre-existing network to share her vision with them. The exact same day, she heard back from one of these pipe dream people who said, "Hey, I happen to be in your town, even though I don't live here. Do you have lunch plans? Let's get together." She canceled whatever plans she had. She went and met him for lunch, and he hired her at that lunch, which was just amazing. She reached out. The power of us reaching out to people and just sharing our vision, you never know what can come from that. You never know what another person knows, and you can never really capitalize on or leverage that information without putting yourself out there. So insight number 3 is you've got to start with human beings and create career advocates. So just so you're following on, the 3 things that we've shared so far, you've got to start with a success mindset. You've got to define your own unique professional niche, your best game. And you have to leverage human beings in this search, because at the end of the day, no matter how digital we get and no matter how far apart we're forced to be from one another, it's people that drive business. It's people that drive career. It's people that drive clarity and insight. And that's exactly what we've talked about so far. So insight number 4, now we're shifting to more of the how, as far as how to drive your career forward. Tiny bets create big wins. So quick check-in. If this is you, you can type yes into the chat box, because this was me. Y'all, I spent hours combing through LinkedIn. So if you are on job boards and LinkedIn, like it is your new side gig, and you're hoping that your dream job will pop out of the screen and announce itself, please type yes into the chat box. If you feel paralyzed, like indecision, uncertainty, I can't move, I can't take action, because you don't know what you would type into that job search box, that job board search box anyway, type yes into the chat. And if you're terrified of making any decisions, because what if I'm wrong, right? Staying here is safe and comfortable, because if I choose and I'm wrong, then I failed. I may not even like what I choose to do next. Type yes into the chat box. Every single person I speak to has the same ultimate fear. Their fear is this. They imagine leaving their job only to find the proverbial grass is not any greener anywhere else. That is everyone's deepest fear. It's maybe my dream job doesn't exist, maybe it's not as good as I think it is. What if I start doing something I love and that actually makes me hate it? it's the deep fear is that they've put all this time and effort to find something that they love doing and they actually hate it. And they wish almost that they had never done, anything different, that they had just stayed in the same job in the first place, which may sound familiar to some of you. And they forget that in our career, you can test drive things. You can try things out. You can make tiny bets that will actually move your career forward in massive strides. Because even with clarity, we are hopeless and horrible at predicting our own happiness. The science of human happiness is fascinating. We are really bad at figuring out what's going to give us long-term happiness. And so we need to test out our ideas. If we don't strategically test our assumptions first, you're either going to always doubt yourself, or you're going to wonder if you've made the right decision, or you're going to land somewhere and you're going to hate it. And the longer you question, the longer you wait to take action. And remember, the longer you wait to take action, the less in your life is going to change. So if you don't feel you have the luxury these days of spending hours online, being disappointed by your options, slaving away while you organically build your network, or throwing a bunch of months or years into a full-time job search, you're going to love career test drives because they're super easy and super highly leverageable. So what do I mean by career test drives? What do I mean by tiny bets? Old school stuff, shadowing, informational interviews, freelancing, volunteering, taking a class. All of these things are great ways to test drive, aka see if you're going to like the reality of this new job that you're pursuing. So this is insight number 4, and these are my 4 favorite tactics for test driving your career. So number 1 is shadowing. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because we got away from the apprentice type of work that used to drive society hundreds of years ago. We stopped shadowing. We stopped going into offices and just seeing if we like it. For some reason, we feel like that's intrusive or invasive or we're not allowed to. But the best way to see if you're going to like an environment is to go spend time there. It just makes sense. My second favorite is informational interviews. This happens to be my personal best. But I think it's the second most effective after shadowing. And informational interviews is literally taking advantage of the fact that human beings love to talk about themselves. So if you identify somebody who has a job that you think you're going to love, but you're not 100% sure, tell them you'll buy them coffee, jump on a Zoom with them, and ask them what's going on. Like, what's it like? What do you do? What does your day-to-day look like? Informational interviews are gold. There are also some incredible online courses. I know Tufts has some really great online courses. They're probably free. Where I went to school, Yale has an entire library of free online courses, which is really cool. There's places like Coursera where you can take free classes. I mean, there are a lot of ways to test drive. If you don't even like to learn about something, it's probably a non-starter. Super easy way to test drive your career. And then freelancing. For about 30 to 40% of you out there, I know that you have an inkling to maybe be your own boss. And in order to see if you can actually hack it, meaning do you like and can you handle the ups and downs of sales? Can you handle the risk? Do you like actually delivering products and services? Freelancing is an amazing way to do that. And in our gig economy, it's never been easier. Because why should I do this, Tracy? Why? You get to capitalize on people who are already doing the jobs that you see yourself doing. Meaning you get, little flub on the keyboard there. Here we go. Meaning you get to capitalize on people who are already doing the jobs that you see yourself doing. You get first-hand, in-person, insightful experience and testimonial that can never be replaced by reading a job description on a job board, period, full stop. You get experiences in these roles that either A, can help you discover your dream job, like, wow, I had no idea this was going to be this great. I didn't know all these cool things that went on here. Or, maybe even better, is that you can dodge that eventual bullet of, wow, I spent 10 minutes in that office and realized the negativity was more than I could take. If only I had sat at a desk for longer than 10 minutes prior to accepting my first job, maybe I could have avoided disaster. So instead of scrolling until you get carpal tunnel on a website that's actually designed for employers instead of employees, you get to make the system work for you. Now, Nick is admittedly and transparently not a client. He's a friend. He's a fellow CEO. He is running an escape room based out of California. Nick is super cool and his story is amazing. And he's such a great example of this insight because he didn't start out as CEO. He didn't even start out working for Red Door Escape Room. When I met Nick, he was working for Frito-Lay. And one evening, he and some friends and his girlfriend went out to an escape room and had an amazing time. And Nick, being sort of an entrepreneurial spirit himself, was like, escape rooms could be a really cool thing for teamwork and team building and companies. I'd love to learn more about this concept. So he went to the guys at the front desk, literally working there that night, and said, hey, do you ever allow people to just come in, volunteer, do a little work? So he started every so often in the evenings or every so often on the weekends going in and giving some of his time to see if he liked it. That led to him being offered not only a full-time job, not only then a managerial job, but then the job of CEO. And now Nick is the CEO of this company. And I just find that whole story really incredible. That happened in the span of like 2 or 3 years, so not even a crazy amount of time. And he's super young, as you can tell. So I can't say enough how taking little bets, putting yourself out there, taking action is going to lead to insight, not inaction. So instead, when you invest in taking decisive action, meaningful action, you make progress. You learn more about your purpose. And this forces you to move away from just waiting around for the proof of the success that we've all, quote unquote, been promised because, hey, you went to the right school, you got the good grades, and puts the onus on us to progress towards our purpose ourselves. So here's the deal. We have one more insight to go, and then we're going to do some Q&A. You can take the long, overwhelming route, by all means. But unless you're crystal clear on what you're already looking for, things like LinkedIn and job boards are not going to help you right now because it's not the lack of opportunities that's keeping you stuck. It's the lack of clarity into what you want to do, why you want to do it, and whether or not you're going to like it. So in order to do that, in order to get clear, we have to get good at the basics. So consistency and clarity, those are the things that reveal only the best and most applicable career opportunities for each of us. So let's quickly recap and we'll wrap up with insight number 5. So what we talked about so far is the why, the mindset. You've got to start out with a success mindset, an ownership mindset. Then we talked about the what, meaning what is your mission? What's your purpose, right? Finding your own unique niche, your best game, your deepest level of clarity. That's how you move the needle forward. And then the how, the methodology. So finding and engaging a group of career advocates, sharing your vision with people, and then also test driving your career assumptions, making these little bets that are going to lead to big wins in the long term. So of course, last but not least, I have to hammer this home with another thing that might sound trite, but it's so important. Discovering your ideal career comes from doing, not thinking. Meaning you can watch this webinar, and if you do nothing after this, guess what? Ain't nothing going to change, which is why insight number 5 is take action before it takes you. And I have a bit of my own story to share here as well. So this is, I did this really cool morning show in Dallas. As you can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, it's 6:47 in the morning, not my jam, but somehow I managed to be awake and laughing in this picture. And they asked me to come in and talk about the career myth, the belief of a linear career path and how that's holding people back. And it turns out that the career myth is this really interesting idea. It's this belief that a lot of us have that's unfortunately delusional because it's outdated, that careers are going to progress in a linear fashion. So in today's world, because of the way companies have shifted since 2007, because of our increasing technology, we now have almost an unlimited number of options in front of us. You and I could go do basically anything and make money doing it. So we can't really expect our careers to follow this well-defined path from when we graduate to when we retire, or what I like to call career conveyor belts. We have to realize that our careers are going to be a little bit more windy, maybe, than they are straightforward. So the first thing that you have to do is own the fact that everything that you've learned, experienced, done so far in your life has led you to the career that you have right now, whether that path was linear or not. However, if you're currently struggling to figure out what you want to do, or you're just looking for the courage to leave something that you hate, you cannot force this on yourself. Staying on the conveyor belt, it's not just going to happen magically, and it's not going to happen just through sheer willpower. You have to learn a new way of thinking to define and find work that you really, really love, if that's what you've always struggled to do. So I do this type of work because I did everything wrong. I had a job, my first job out of college, I absolutely hated. That was on Wall Street, which is not for everybody, I learned. And I left really only with the belief that I could find work that I love. And so I really did believe in myself. And I spent money, I spent time to figure out what I wanted to do. But I am a living, breathing example of how easy it is to fall into old habits because I still had to learn this lesson the hard way. So the year before I started my own business, I got fired from a job. I took a job that in my gut, in my heart of hearts, I knew was not a great fit, but I was scared. I was nervous. I needed a paycheck. They flattered me. They told me how smart I was. There were all these things that seemed to line up logically, and yet at the end of the day, this job was such a bad fit that I didn't make it very long before they figured it out. It's sort of like if you date a person that you're not super interested in, they're going to figure it out eventually, and they're going to dump you. The same thing happens with our jobs. If you take a job that you know is not a great fit for you, you're not pretending well enough to keep that secret from everybody else. And it took me getting fired, like literally being at my lowest of lows, because you guys are incredible graduates from an incredible school. Same here, and I worked my tail off. Getting fired was the spark that I needed. It was the spark that I needed to go, all right, I guess doing the safe thing is not for me. I'm going to start a company. I guess since I couldn't find a career clarity methodology that I liked, I'm going to build one myself. And so now I have, the burden, if you will, the joy of running a business and helping my clients get jobs that they love. And that is exactly what I want for you. That whole process made me a big believer in congruence. And congruence is when what you say matches up with what you do. So I really believe that the person who says they want something, a better career, more money, clarity, happiness, if they don't take action towards it, not only will they not get it, but they're living out of integrity. And I don't really believe that the world that we live in celebrates or appreciates a lack of integrity. So is it scary? Like, hell yeah, it's scary. But nobody goes from living sort of a mediocre or even miserable life from stuck to unstoppable without fear and without some guidance and without taking leaps at times. But I am a living example of the fact that it is way scarier to be fired from a job you didn't even like in the first place than it is to quit. Just trust me. So I just want to leave you with take action before it takes you. Okay? So today I promised that we would learn a couple things. First, the why behind loving your job and how career satisfaction leads to more and faster wealth. And that's wealth in more ways than one, you guys. We are rich in finances, rich in freedom, rich in fulfillment if we love what we do. What our most successful students are doing that's helping them find jobs that fit like a hand in a glove. And I promise to show you how to create a scenario where people are contacting you for positions that you love, you're good at, the world needs, and you can get paid, aka that Ikigai model that we started out with. So these are the 5 insights. If you're taking notes, these are the 5 insights that we've gone over today. Number 1 is you got to start with the right mindset for success and ownership. Number 2 is you've got to have clarity around your niche, your best game professionally. Number 3 is you want to have an engaged and leveraged network of humans that are helping you. Number 4 is getting targeted career test drives, tiny bets. And number 5 is, of course, taking massive and meaningful action. Now, you have a choice. This is where the crossroads happens. You get to choose. Do I take action from what I've learned today or not? Do I keep going down the road I'm going, or do I make a shift? Do I really lean into some of these insights and principles, or do I ignore them? Do I make this a really fun 45 minutes that I spent, or do I make this a lifetime change? These are your options today. And I just want to leave you with a bit of a note about coaches. I myself have obviously a business where we do this type of work, but I think it's important that if you are going to enlist some professional help, you know what you need to be looking for. So first and foremost, a good coach is going to help you play up your strengths and reframe your weaknesses, meaning help you find that best game for you. They're also going to work on your mindset. So they're going to help you rewrite any limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck at the level that you are, despite the fact that I know you're working really hard and I know you're thinking about this all the time. They're going to teach you tools and strategies that work and that work for today's career environment, not the 1980s, to build the career and the life of your dreams. And most of all, I think, and maybe most importantly, they're going to hold you accountable. They're not going to let you bail because they know fear is coming and they know exactly what to do when it happens. So if you've resonated with me, if you like the way I do this, if you like the insights that I've shared, then I'll invite you to connect with me. If not, no pressure and no hard feelings, go find the coach that resonates with you. But if you are interested in learning more about how we do this, I've set aside some time so I can speak to you personally about how we can help you apply these ideas to your career. So whatever your challenges are, trust me, I've done 300 clarity calls to date. I know what they are. I've seen them. I know we can overcome them together. So I'm going to offer you guys a free session if you want it. In this session, we'll discover what's keeping you stuck in your career. We'll determine the next best steps for your future. We'll also decide if we're a good fit to work together. And if that's the case, happy days. We get to solve your career problems together. But for now, the cost of the call itself is 100% free. So first of all, whether or not this is interesting to you and you want to actually talk to me, I want to invite you to download a freebie that I created for you guys for Tufts alumni. This freebie is called the 4 Places to Discover Your Dream Job. So it's a download. It's a guide. If you go to tracytimm.com/free guide, no spaces, type in your name and email address, you'll receive a free guide, and then you'll also be registered to receive our bi-weekly career tips. So I send out, wins, we send out freebies, we send out downloads, we send out insights. I mostly write funny stories about things that happened to me in my career, and they're usually funny, if not inspiring. So if nothing else, go ahead and download your free guide. The second thing are the strategy calls that I mentioned. So these are free 50-minute career clarity strategy calls that I'm offering to you as registrants and participants in this webinar. All you have to do is go to tracytimm.com/clarity, type in your name and email. You'll be prompted to select a date and a time for your call, and you'll need to complete a very short 3-minute career assessment. That way I have a little bit of background. I know who you are. I know that you came, to us through this incredible webinar provided by Tufts, and we can get that rocking and rolling. So those are the 2 offers I have to you. Thank you so much, Tufts. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, all of you guys, for being here. Again, your free download is at tracytimm.com/free guide. Your free strategy call, if you're feeling called to really go deeper and figure out if working together is a good fit, then you go to tracytimm.com/clarity. But if you just want to learn more about what we do, maybe you want to dabble, maybe you want some more freebies, what have you, go to nthdegree.tracytimm.com. I'm going to take some Q&A for as long as you guys want to stick around, and I just thank you so much for allowing me to serve you today.
So much, Tracy. It was great to have you today, and we will. You can see the chat, so I'll let people type in questions. And can you still?
I can see the chat, yes, and I'm hoping if we could keep the questions in the Q&A box, that would be lovely. That way I can see them separately from the chat. But
okay, so people should type in questions in Q&A.
That would be lovely, yes. But I see, yeah, Nicole, if you could help me to check some of these questions in case I don't see them all, I would love to see.
I don't see any yet. And I'm checking both the chat and the Q&A.
So one of the questions, and I'll just get this started, and while if any of you are thinking of questions, maybe you're afraid to ask the first question, I totally get it. One of the questions that I hear the most often is, okay, Tracy, love the idea of finding your niche. I really want clarity. In fact, clarity is the only thing that's holding me back. How do I define or determine what my unique professional niche is? It's the question I get the most often, and it's the fundamental part of what I teach. There are 3 components to one's professional niche in my mind. In our practice, I call them your now, your nature, and your nurture. These are the 3 ways, the 3 types of fit that you can have when it comes to you fitting into your career. Companies will call them culture fit, behavioral fit, and subject matter fit, or like skills fit, and I call them now, nature, and nurture. So what you have to get really clear on is, what is your now? Where are you in your life? What are your non-negotiables? And truly just what are your values? What are just the baseline values and commitments that you have for your life and for your career? Those have to align with the company or with the program or whatever that you're working with. That's like sort of the baseline. If you hate your boss, it's likely because you don't share the same type of values. If you don't like the amount of oversight at your job, you don't share values, right? The second thing is your nature. So that's getting really clear on who you are naturally. That's your behavioral set and your personality. It's also your gifts and your talents as a professional. So things that just come naturally and easily to you. That's the second type of fit, the second component of your niche. The third component of your niche is something that I call your nurture. And your nurture is all of your previous experiences and what you can leverage from those experiences, what you can bring to bear professionally. And in the professional world, they'll call this, are you the best subject matter fit? Are you the best skills fit or knowledge fit or the best expertise for the job? If you can have all three, which is the gold standard, this is how you define your Olympic gold medal level niche, is that the job fits you from a values perspective, which is your now, it fits you from a personality perspective, which is your nature, and it fits you from a skills and knowledge and expertise perspective, which is your nurture. That's the holy grail, all three of those things. That's how you determine your niche.
So we do have one question. What do we do if our network is a bunch of folks who don't work in the sector you want to work in?
Great question. I see that is Valerie. Thank you so much for asking that. So first and foremost, I think that we underestimate, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. They've actually done studies, and if you've read any Malcolm Gladwell, you might know this already, that we're actually only like 2.3 people away from anybody on the planet on average. I think we underestimate the people who our people know, meaning your 1 degree connections may all be in the same industry. Maybe they're in the same town. Maybe they're all just in your family. But there's a really good chance that they know people who they can then very comfortably and easily introduce you to that can lead to the 2nd degree of connection. So the goal is to start with who you know because it's comfortable and easy, and those people just intrinsically, innately want to help you, and get them to make the warm introductions to the right types of people that are going to expand your network in the type of way that you've identified that it needs to grow. I see that networks often need to grow in positivity, in diversity, and in connectedness. So if you can find a positive group of people who are highly connected and highly diverse, that's going to be your best bet at growing your network.
So I don't see any other questions, but just a follow-up comment. We get a couple of other questions coming in. But one of the participants wanted to mention that networks are also siloed by socioeconomic level as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Valerie, that sounds like a pretty specific one. If you want to shoot me a message or an email or book a call, let's talk about that so we can get a couple of these other ones answered.
So we have, suppose I do like my boss and company. How can I use these insights to increase value in my current role?
Such a good question. Okay, so what we're talking about is really elevating yourself from an employee, a generic person or a generic set of job requirements, let's say, to an asset at a company. And career clarity can get you from stuck to unstoppable. It can also take you from employee to asset. So if you're going to use these insights to progress your career forward with intention in the place where you already are, then you have to do a couple of things. You have to know how you uniquely add value to the business that either increases revenue or decreases expenses, both of which lead to bottom line growth. If you can draw a direct line between what you do and how the company makes money, people will listen to you. So first of all, if you can identify how you're part of that process, that's super important. The second thing is, I think the part on creating career advocates is really crucial, because if you know who needs to know you to progress in your business and to grow your career, and you advocate for yourself to that person consistently, then you're going to get attention, right? I think I've been brought into companies to teach their young professionals how to advocate for themselves, because a lot of young professionals are still relying on, it's a little, outdated thinking in that we think, okay, this is going to progress just kind of like my academic life did, right? You just get to go to the next step once you've quote unquote graduated from that previous step, right? Like, so freshman to sophomore to junior to senior. Well, we know from, after being in your career for a couple of years that that's not necessarily the case, especially if you're not in a super linear, like a career conveyor belt type of job. So you have to be advocating for yourself. So find the people in your business who are going to be your sponsors, not just your mentors, but your sponsors. So people are going to speak up for you, put you up for promotions, talk about you when you're not around in important conversations. And you do all of this at the end of the day by having absolute clarity into your niche and how you are unreplaceable. That's how you become an asset. Hope that's helpful.
Great. So let's see. The questions are coming in. Let's see. You mentioned that in leveraging your network to share your vision with your pre-existing network. Can you elaborate a bit more on what this vision means?
Yeah, so the vision would be your vision for your ideal career. And that comes in, I think, two formats. So when we work with somebody and we help them do that discovery phase, the now, nature, nurture piece, and then we help them define their unique niche, their niche is defined in two ways. One is the sort of global version of your niche. It's almost like if you were a company, it'd be like your brand statement or your brand promise. It's, who you serve, how you serve them, and how you serve them best. So for me, like my niche is working with people, on people, taking good and making it great, and being a catalyst for positive change. And that might sound like cheesy and big picture, but that's my brand. That's like what I'm the best at doing professionally. Details-wise, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of that could look a lot of different ways. So if you think about the big picture as like the trunk of your tree, the trunk of your niche tree, each of the branches off of your tree are going to be viable jobs that fall within, that realm, that trunk of your niche tree, right? So when you're sharing your vision, you're sharing that big picture, and then you're sharing as many of the details as possible, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, so that your networking partner can help you put those puzzle pieces together, if that's what you need from them, or they can help you identify where that job exists and how to get it and help you move the journey forward, help you move the career search process forward. So vision is really what you see yourself doing ideally in your professional life. That's what you would share.
All right. Next question. I'm an older guy, recently laid off, originally an artist, but ended up in tech product marketing to survive and not starve. How do we address ageism now? Yes, a ton of experience, but as you correctly noted, haven't really been happy in my career.
Yeah, so this is tough, and I'll just own that I am young, and so I haven't experienced ageism personally, but I have a mom, and she works, and she was also part of this. She's in the travel industry, and she was recently furloughed from her job. And there's a significant worry and concern when it comes to being treated differently just because of your age. It comes from a couple of some economic factors, some just like ageism, as you're saying, like people don't think older people know what they're doing, they're adaptable, et cetera. Some of it comes from, assuming they're going to want to get paid more or what have you. Again, this is not a catch-all answer by any means, but I think that at the end of the day, for you to move beyond somebody's ageism, racism, misogyny, whatever, you have to deeply know the value that you add as a professional. And you have to articulate that value very clearly and in no uncertain terms to, again, go from this is just a person who I could hire for a job to this is somebody that our company cannot move forward without. That is the difference between random employee who is replaceable and fireable and we are concerned about their age to an asset that even if we only get them for a couple years, it's going to be hugely beneficial to our business because they have an irreplaceable amount of knowledge, talent, skill, value, grit, drive, revenue producing, I mean, you name it. But the key, again, is to know what are your now, nature, and nurture? How do they fit together in such a unique way that you're irreplaceable and that nobody can do what you do? And I think that's the only way that we can overcome the biases that are just inherent in the career search process. Because we are human beings and we are biased, and that is going to happen. I've seen it happen as a woman in business or as a female business owner or even a female on Wall Street. And I wasn't clear on what my value was. And so I think that again, it's not a perfect solution because it's a really complicated problem. But if you can advocate for the value you add and how that is going to increase business value, and you can make a case that you're uniquely suited to do it, that it's highly unlikely they're going to find anybody else who can do it better, that's how you win.
So we do have one question that came through the chat that's more technical. It's what is the link to the free session?
Yeah. So quick fix there.
Yeah.
There's
we'll
no www.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So it's just tracytimm.com/clarity. If you go there, it should redirect you to a landing page that has you're welcome, Michael. That has so no www on any of those links, otherwise they won't work. It's all,
and we'll send this out in a follow-up email too. We're going to send out to all registrants the details for following up with both Tracy and with Tufts Alumni Career Services. So we are at the 2:15 mark, and I don't see any other questions right now. So I think we should close the webinar, but before we do, I want to say thank you so much, Tracy, for your time and your insight. It was a really engaging webinar. I really enjoyed it, and based on the chat, I think the attendees did too. So, we look forward to everyone participating, in future webinars. You can check our website for what's up and coming, and please connect with Tracy, if her message resonates with you.
Hey,
Thanks again,
you
Tracy.
so much. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Take care.